What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday we finally got the Blackout trailer, and it was epic. I really enjoyed it, and a bunch of YouTubers have already done their initial impressions of it, or the reaction to it or something. I didn't want to do that. What I did instead is I went frame by frame, and I found 10 things that you likely missed, unless you also went frame by frame like I did, in this trailer. So first up right here, some people would have picked up on this, but for many people they haven't yet, and this also goes along with interviews that we've seen. These initial helicopters that you see here, these aren't helicopters that you can fly in the middle of a game and attack people with or anything. These are actually the helicopters you drop from at the beginning of the game. Instead of dropping from a battle bus or a C-130 or something, you actually drop from these helicopters. Now when you drop from this, you have the wingsuit and you use that to kind of control where you want to land. And then before you hit the ground, you deploy a parachute so that you don't die. So that one might have been kind of clear to a few people that have been keeping up with interviews and everything, but I wanted to point that out. Let's move on to the next one, and this one's a lot less obvious. There's a couple little glitch sequences at the beginning of the trailer here, and with two of these glitches at the beginning, it looks like we are seeing the underground Nuketown bunkers. So there's the Nuketown Island where you have the destroyed Nuketown up top. Down below that, it seems very likely that there's going to be an underground bunker, and these are the first two images of it. You see the mannequins there, which are synonymous with Nuketown. And also it looks to be like a 60s style underground bunker. And I think that's our first look at it right there. Moving on to the third thing you might have missed, another one of those glitch sequences appears, and if you take a screenshot there, you see a basketball net. And it has been confirmed online that you will be able to play basketball in Blackout. It will actually take up one of your primary weapon slots if you want to take the basketball. But presumably they'll have some sort of like a challenge, like daily challenge or something, or maybe a trophy for sinking a basket or something along those lines. But this is our first look at the basketball net in Blackout. We also don't know if it's just one basketball court or if there will be several throughout the map. Moving on to the next one, a lot of you guys probably picked up on this, but if you weren't really paying too close attention, you can see a supply drop coming down, and you'll also see that if you have a cargo truck and you park it under the spot that the supply drop is coming, you can actually catch that supply crate with the cargo truck and take off with it. This one might be a bit more obvious than a bunch of the other ones that I'm mentioning, but I wanted to point it out anyways. This brings us to the sniping mechanic in this game, and we've all known based on interviews from quite some time ago that there is going to be bullet travel time as well as bullet drop, at least for snipers in Blackout. And with this clip, we can see kind of what that looks like. Now, the important thing to note here is if you look at his point of aim right before the shot, and you compare that to when he hits the enemy and where he hits the enemy, it looks like at least at this range from that elevated position, there's practically no bullet drop, but there is bullet travel time. So bullet drop isn't going to be overly exaggerated like in Fortnite, for instance, but you will absolutely have to compensate for that travel time. So next up on our list, we have our first look at what happens when you kill an enemy player and how they drop their items. As you can see here, when he gets sniped, he drops the pack on the ground there, and that's where you will go and collect his items if you wanted to loot him. This one's not really a big surprise, I just wanted to point it out because this is our first look at the pack that you drop when you end up dying. Next up, we got our first look at the storm or the circle, whatever you want to call it, closing in on the characters and what happens when you're actually in that storm. Turns out you actually hallucinate a little bit and you can see the numbers, you know, the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? You get to see those numbers when you're in the storm, as well as little images will be popping up. I freeze framed on those images, and also the people on Reddit, I have to give credit to them here, they have found that these images actually represent Nova 6 gas. So while the gas circle itself doesn't appear to be Nova 6 because that's normally green, there's something going on there that is Nova 6 related based on these images. Now, whether or not they're going to hide Easter eggs within this, I don't really know. It could also just be random hallucinations with images from the Black Ops series, just so that they really own this Blackout mode. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they will hide some sort of special Easter egg, and I think that would be kind of cool. Another thing I wanted to point out, though, if you freeze frame it right here, you'll see that they actually have like backwards. I'm about to put on my tinfoil hat. This is definitely a subliminal message, so you like the trailer, and it appears to be working pretty good so far. Now, as it shows the characters coming out of the circle, we see a new gun that we haven't seen in Black Ops 4 at least. This is a double-barreled LMG. Now, perhaps this is a zombies weapon from the past that I'm just not familiar with because I'm not much of a zombies player. You guys can let me know down in the comment section below, but I did want to point it out of all the weapons that we saw in the trailer, and I was very careful going through every single one of them, we have seen them in Black Ops 4 multiplayer in the beta, aside from this gun. So next up, getting on to number 7 on the list, we have the RCXD. This is the first time that we actually see it in Blackout. And it has been mentioned that this is non-lethal. It's only something that you can use for reconnaissance. So you can call it in, drive around, see if you have an enemy camping in a room or something like that. And then you can make your decision on how you want to approach it from there. And the trade-off to this is while you're calling that in, you're obviously very exposed and you can't do anything because you're too busy driving a car around. Next up, this brings us to number 9, and there's no way you caught this unless you freeze framed it right here. But I just want to point out right at this frame here, you can see on the bottom left side of the screen, there is a downed player. It's really no surprise here, but I did want to point out a lot of times throughout this trailer, anytime somebody died, they were just immediately dead. They didn't drop into a downed state. This is the first time we actually see somebody that's downed within Blackout. And it's no surprise to us, we've seen this in the heist mode within the beta, so you could down players and then you could go revive your teammates if they were downed. I just wanted to point out that this is the very first image that we see of a player being downed in Blackout. And finally, this brings us to the last thing that you may have missed as you were watching this trailer, and I thought this one was kind of interesting. This is the blood spatters when you shoot players. It looks like they're going with kind of that PUBG route, and H1Z1 used to do this as well, and then for whatever reason they got away from it. I don't know where they're at with it now. But when you shoot a player, there is a very clearly visible explosion of blood off of them, so it really shows that you got the hit on them, and you can see clearly that you've hit that enemy. Now, I don't know if this means that we're not going to get any hit markers when we get into the actual Blackout experience. Obviously, in the trailer, when they're showing it from the first-person perspective, there's no heads-up display whatsoever, so they could easily just remove the hit markers there. So, whether or not we have hit markers, I don't know at this point. I'm sure we'll find out any minute now. But I did want to point out that there are very clear blood spatters when you shoot enemy players, and that should help you track whether or not your shots are hitting. So with that, those are 10 things that you may have missed while going through the Blackout trailer. Of course, there's a bunch of other things that are a lot more obvious that you'll see the first or second time through, but I did try to pick things that you probably didn't catch unless you really slowed it down in a video editing program. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what did you guys think of this Blackout trailer? Personally, I loved it. I thought they did a really good job with the trailer, but I'd like to know what you guys are thinking down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.